I am a virus. Chapter 2, Painful Reflections 5, Why We Never Reflect. After this disaster, will the Chinese people have a deep reflection? I have already started reflecting myself and believe some others are doing the same, but I remain very pessimistic about the possibility of collective reflection in China. Even so, collective reflection must start with individuals. No matter what others do, I must first be responsible for myself. The reason for my pessimism is that many times, when I wanted to start, I thought about China's enormous population and the deeply rooted toxic culture. No matter how many individuals, a few people, or even some, as long as they are a minority in this country, I would feel that more reflection would be futile, and so I gave up. This time, however, the situation is a bit different due to the nature of the COVID-19 virus. Its asymptomatic transmission rapidly threatens the entire world, plunging it into panic and causing real harm. If we say that the virus in Chinese culture has already been polluting the world through China's economic strength, through the Belt and Road Initiative and Confucius Institutes, many people around the globe haven't cared or have been insufficiently vigilant, then this time the virus coming from China suddenly reminded me that the cultural infiltration from China happening worldwide is also asymptomatic. However, compared to the rapid spread of COVID-19, the harm from this cultural penetration comes slower, so slow that many don't notice it. But ultimately, this toxic cultural infiltration will cause harm as great as the coronavirus, or even fatal harm. Therefore, this reflection must begin. It is both a reflection and a global whistle warning. Even if my reflection does not affect the Chinese people, at least I can sound the alarm for the whole world. Chinese culture's virus is extremely dangerous, and the whole world should be on alert. The world cannot stand by and watch as the Chinese virus continues to spread. Everyone should work together to stop it. For this virus, the world needs to come together to develop vaccines and medications to face it together. Although I once thought it would be extremely difficult to have external forces intervene to help the Chinese reflect and renew their culture, at least I must try. The reason I don't believe that collective reflection is possible among Chinese people is because China has already experienced many disasters far worse than this pandemic. We have suffered multiple disasters far longer than this, even the fall of the country multiple times. Yet we have never seen any real opportunities for reflection. At most, we make superficial fixes at the institutional level. The worst part is that our current system is built upon our entrenched culture, which is deeply rooted. Especially with the Chinese Communist Party (CCP), although we have a constitution, the rule of law, and even a so-called People's Congress, it is highly deceptive. In reality, the political system of this country has never escaped the malign traditions of Chinese culture. We have never truly reflected on the problems of our hard-working, brave, and intelligent nation. In my view, the problem lies precisely within the culture we are so proud of, one that we continue to take pride in for its long history and depth. We fail to realize that this culture itself almost entirely lacks the ability for reflection and logical thinking. Even after multiple dynasties fell, we never acknowledged that there was something wrong with our culture. Wasn't the Song and Ming dynasties the pinnacle of Confucianism in China? Why did they fall to foreign invaders? Chinese people can find various reasons, but they will never reflect on what was wrong with our culture. After each fall, as long as we could expel the invaders, we would return to promoting traditional culture, more arrogantly strengthening our cultural superiority. Many Chinese will absolutely not admit that the reason our culture was preserved after we were defeated was simply because we were lucky and our geographical position was advantageous. The civilizations that destroyed us were far less advanced, with populations much smaller than ours. In fact, looking at the population comparison, one should understand that the cultures that conquered us had populations less than 2% of ours, because they could only use our language and culture to rule us, while we still think we assimilated them. Imagine if the civilizations that defeated China were powerful and had substantial populations, what would have happened? Look at modern Egypt, Iran, Pakistan, and Indonesia, countries that were not originally Islamic. Let us look at it from another angle. Since our culture is so powerful, why did we fall to populations much smaller than ours and nearly cultureless tribes in the age of cold weapons? Clearly, this should have triggered collective reflection on Chinese culture, but unfortunately, such reflection has never occurred in the past few centuries. Even more regrettably, during the early years of the Republic of China, when we made our only attempt at cultural reflection, that attempt was soon aborted by the call for national salvation. Worse still, in our rush to find a quick fix, the result of this reflection was the choice of communism. Today, 70 years after the CCP took power, it seems few people in China understand that the so-called socialist proletarian dictatorship system built by force in the Soviet Union actually fits our traditional culture. As I discussed earlier, this so-called socialism, the actual proletarian dictatorship system, has been greatly reinforcing the evil aspects of our culture through its propaganda and organizational capabilities. The reflection I am repeatedly emphasizing refers to reflection on the roots of Chinese culture, because it is the values of our culture that determine the choices and operating models of our current system. Simply focusing on institutional reform is like chasing the branches without addressing the roots. Without new cultural enlightenment and transformation, without new values, it is difficult to create new systems and operational methods, and thus hard to achieve real political and legal progress. In China, the breeding ground for various viruses will continue to exist. In the context of globalization, the viruses created in China will not only harm China but will also harm others. It is only a matter of time before the disasters originating from China affect the entire globe.